parenting can highlight the areas we still need to heal and grow in. Why don't you talk a little
Hmm.
more about that? Because you started to talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it can look so many different ways. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of times where maybe you've done a lot of work and you're like, I'm doing great. And then all of a sudden, some stage of motherhood, it could be early motherhood, it could be later. But all of a sudden, you start to see things in yourself that you're not super proud of. Maybe you're seeing some mom rage and you're seeing anger coming out at your kid or your partner or somebody else or yourself, and you've never even been an angry person and you're like, where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're realizing that your anxiety and you're worrying all the time, or you're realizing that you're like on alert like all the time, like what's going to go wrong,
Yeah.
or you're realizing that you're starting to have like negative thoughts about like yourself, about life, about all sorts of things. There's so many different ways. Like I could literally talk for an hour about all the different ways I've seen this show up with the women that I work with. And but it can come at any stage. And I think something that can happen sometimes is people make it through like the early motherhood and they're like, oh, I'm doing good. And then all of a sudden, maybe their kid's 4. I always thought 3s and 4s were much harder than 2s.
Mm-hmm. I
But
agree.
like they get these like little attitudes, the three-nager thing where they're like telling you how things are going to be, and all of a sudden
Yes.
things can come up in you and you're like, why am I fighting with a 3-year-old? I am definitely, this is not logical. And so,
Yeah.
like, you just start to notice these things. So, some of the things that I think can really be highlighted is unresolved trauma. So maybe you've healed it greatly, but I see healing as like a cyclical thing, and we keep kind of going up like a
Yeah.
spiral staircase.
Yep.
So like we deal with it on this level, and then we, come up to another level of life and we're
Mm-hmm.
higher, and we've made progress, but we still got to keep touching on it.
Yep.
And that seems to be a lot of what happens with, say, healing from trauma, healing from all sorts of things. So it can be triggered by a trauma you experience in motherhood. It can be triggered by the lack of feeling like you're in control. One of the
Mm-hmm.
first lessons you learn as a parent is how little control you have. Like,
So true.
and anybody that's like, well, you need to control that child, I'm like, you clearly don't know how this works.
Yeah. No, there's no
Because
controlling them.
there is not. There's,
Mm-mm.
helping and guiding and, nurturing and directing and
Yeah.
all of that, but truly you can't control them. You
No.
can't even get them to eat and sleep when you want them to. I mean, heck, I can't even always get myself to sleep when I want me to. So,
I
but
know
I,
it is shocking, and it's like when you think you get ready to go to a family outing, and all of a sudden something comes up with a baby. How are you going to control that? You got to go change a diaper. You got to,
mm-hmm,
the baby throws a fit. I mean, there's just so many things. You are not in control.
yeah.
You are not in control.
Yeah. And for people who have had anxiety issues, people who have had a
Yeah.
history of trauma, that feeling of not being in control can be
Hmm.
very triggering and very
Yep.
scary.
Yep.
And it can bring a lot of that stuff back up.
Right.
There's, a lot of the other things that can be big triggers is the way that you parent with a partner if you have one, and how that delegation of responsibilities looks and how it's balanced or not. There's a lot of stuff that can come up in
Mm-hmm.
that. There's a lot of time I can hear that victim mentality kind of show up in that
Oh,
space of
sure.
like, you know, they never do anything. I have to do everything. Poor me. Woe is me. And not to say that that's not even necessarily true, because we know that moms still do the majority of the child rearing tasks and definitely the majority of the mental load. However, it's when it turns into this woe is me place that it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, there's a sign. I need to do something with this.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I can remember feeling like that too. And it was because I was the one that was getting up all night. I was the one that was nursing him. I was the one, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember feeling a little mad about that. And then I realized like there was nothing more my husband at the time could really do. That's just the
Mm-hmm.
situation we were in. He was doing, and he really was trying to do everything he could do to help me, and but it was very stressful. And it was, being tired and not sleeping, being tired. And then I wasn't eating, right? Because all I cared about was sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
Yeah.
care about eating. I did
Yeah,
not
and the
care.
second you sit down to try to eat, that's when the baby thinks it's their turn to eat. It's like they have some sense, like, oh, you're gonna sit down, then you should nurse me, or you
Yes.
should get me a bottle, and you're like, but I just need a snack.
Yeah, they have a radar about that. But
Yeah.
you brought something up a minute ago that I think is really true. That I mean, don't you think that if somebody has a little anxiety with the trauma in their background, like that is the probably the most prevalent thing that pops up is the anxiety? Because I'm thinking back, I didn't realize I had anxiety at the time. I didn't realize it. I
Mhm.
look back now, yes, I did. And do I today? Yes. And I've learned to manage it better. But I could imagine, of course, in being in survival mode, that popped up a lot. Like I walked around
Mhm.
very anxious, very stressed all the time. I can remember he was about 3 weeks old and we went to the grocery store. It was our big first outing, right? And
Mhm.
I put him in the shopping cart in his little carrier. And my husband always at the time always pushed the cart, right? And I just remember starting to walk and not that I really thought he would do this, but anxiety rose up in me and I turned around to him and said, "Don't you let go of that shopping cart." I had this fear that he was going to let go and someone was going to take him. Like that
Mhm.
anxiety rose up in me. I mean, I don't know if that's common with other, but I just had this overwhelming protectiveness that showed up the first
Mhm.
time we went out in public with him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and the thing is to some extent, there's some normalcy of that. Like, that's, part of how we're designed as moms to be mama bears, to be protective of these little humans that can't protect themselves. Like, there's all these other creatures that when their babies are born, they can run off by themselves. We have these little completely dependent little
Yeah.
humans. And they do need moms that are going to be on alert for them because it's not like they can be like, ooh, there's a threat, let me run away. They need us to
Yeah.
care for them. So
Right.
there is a natural part that we are more on alert. That's part of why like pregnant moms and new moms still have a heightened sense of smell. They've decided that that's really so that we can sense threats and things like that.
Sure.
That we might, oh, there's fire. We should do something about that.
Right.
And so we have these natural instincts to be protective. And my opinion about most things in all of mental health world and just life in general is that everything's on a spectrum. Like being on alert more, being a little bit more anxious, that's normal. It's when it gets out of control that you're like, oh gosh, we should do something about this. Like,
Right.
being a little, you know, I think about even like when you're a mom and your kid has a sickness. It's like, oh, their fever's raised a little. Okay, cool. Good to know something's going on there. We don't necessarily need to do anything about it. We're just going to notice something's going on there. But,
Mhm.
oh, their fever's 104. Let's do something about that.
Right.
And we need to pay attention to that within our anxieties and our worries is how much
Exactly.
is it impacting us? Is this I should notice this and take a couple deep breaths and move forward? Or is this oh, I should get some help for this?